Hey friends, welcome to Gardening with Creekside and this month's porch chat. We are here, we have moved to the front porch. We are back here because the weather's changed and it's nice and cool. It is glorious.
Fall has come.
It is. We have officially, of course, calendar-wise hit fall, but also weather-wise, and the leaves are changing. It's fantastic.
They are. They're rapidly changing here in the last week or two.
Yeah, I mean, look at Jerry. He's wearing pants and a t-shirt and a fleece, and I'm, same thing. So we're glad to kind of put the sweating on hold for a little bit.
Yes.
Yes, so we did this. We do our monthly porch chats once a month where we just do a really informal, unscripted chat between Jerry and I where we look back on the month that the videos and answer viewer questions. We also talk about like what's happening in real time and then here at the nursery in the house and then looking ahead in the future for projects and events or things that are coming up. And so this is just a really kind of a unscripted, fun time where we can just sit and chat and on the porch and have a good time.
Right.
Yeah. So, anything we want to talk about that has happened or projects that are going on, trips or anything? What's on your mind?
Well, we just got back from our trip from Spring Meadow. Had a nice time in the gardens there. Mm-hmm. It was nice to see the panicle hydrangeas like Limelight and Bobo and Limelight Prime and Little Lime Punch. They were all punch, all of them. I don't know that one of them didn't look like the other one.
I know, they were gorgeous. So the thing is because the reason that Jerry's bringing that up is because the panicles are, of course, the sun-loving hydrangeas that start out creamy white, and then when you have cooler temperatures in the fall and nighttime cool temperatures like what happens in Michigan, they turn this glorious different shades of pinks and mauves and reds.
So yeah, several things are going on there. So they come out later.
True.
Yes, than they do here. Mm-hmm. And then they have that cooler night. So they really have a shorter span than ours.
Well, they do, and they have less time in the, because it does get hot in Michigan, but it's less the length of the time because our panicles do not change those beautiful colors here in the South. It's nothing that we're doing wrong, it's because of our climate.
And I will say, I just told Jenny the other day, we did the new one this year, it's Quickfire Fab, and it's the earliest bloom, which is really interesting. You would think it would be the opposite, but it's the earliest blooming panicle for us. Quickfire Fab, 4 to 5 feet tall. Really beautiful pink color early on, and then we had some up there. I guess they were newer blooms, maybe. I'm not sure, but we have a few still left in production, and they had the pink in them, not like what you saw in that video with the whole, because it's supposed to be more of a graduated looking color. But that was nice to see. That was probably one of the biggest takeaways for me at that tour of that video were those hydrangeas.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then also for me, I enjoy and maybe it's because I'm thinking of like new gardens, but really like analyzing the garden design and the layout that they did and how they have it planned. Really, lots of good takeaways. We always say if you can go visit other gardens where it's like botanical gardens or friends gardens, or you do some like a garden tour. They have those a lot of times in the spring and the fall.
Yep.
Do that because you're going to learn and take little tidbits away from that.
Right.
Anything else? Thinking?
The thing about garden design is just all the few projects we've got going on that they just saw the video with the berm that we're installing, working on actually this morning with more soil, probably 2 more loads, maybe. I don't know. It's really hard to tell.
Well, 2 have already come.
We have a total of 4 out there.
Right, I meant this morning. So we had 2 on the video, and then 2 came this morning. We're currently waiting on 2 more. So that'll be a total of
4.
2, 4, 6.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah.
Possibly 2 more. Mm-hmm. We'll see. So we're just building it up, and so you just kind of have to dump the soil and then move it around and see where you are from there.
That's right.
That's right. Updates on the building up at production?
So we've, as of yesterday afternoon, 4 corner posts were put in.
Awesome.
We did a good job with that. I actually went up there and auged the rest of the holes this morning. And then,
You want to talk about that?
no, it's not why I did it. I was just up there and, you know, it's all good. It
Well,
worked
they
out
had
great.
the people who came to mark the gas line. It was off by what, 2 feet?
It was, and they hit the gas line.
And so they hit the
yesterday.
gas line yesterday.
Not, you know, but the thing is that's where the post had to go. So it
Really didn't matter.
It just didn't matter, other than us just knowing that it was there. We could have maybe dug around it and adjusted it, maybe.
Turn the gas off first.
Yes, you know. So, you know, we did that.
No explosions yesterday, so
So-
we're all good.
So I
No
jumped
fires.
up there and just, you know, thought I'd help out.
Well, you do enjoy being on the machinery.
Yeah, it was good. I enjoyed it this morning. You know, drilled and they should get all those posts in, so then we'll be ready for framing, concrete. We can start doing everything else. So,
Awesome.
yeah.
All right. Anything else you want to talk about right quick before we dive into questions?
No, we can go into questions.
All right. So we don't hit every video from the past month. I just kind of hit some of the highlights, maybe the more popular ones that had more questions in it. The first one we are going to talk about today is entitled Garden Tour of Great New Plant Introductions, where we went through and toured in the trial beds and kind of went over those and talked about those. So the first question comes from Shirley Martin. She says, your entrance is stunning. Do you have issues with slugs in your area? If so, how do you combat them? I'd love to try lime-time coleus, but we get slugs. Some years they're really bad. We do get slugs in our shady areas, and so with my hostas and different plants like that, there is a lot of different companies will make it. It is an organic slug and snail bait. I have it listed in our Amazon store, so if you check out our video description, you can click on that link and it'll take you there. But a bunch of different companies make it, and it is an organic solution, so it's safe to use around pets and your vegetable gardens and all sorts of things. It's a granular, and prevention is always the number one thing. So I will use this and just shake it out onto my flower beds every couple of weeks. So I try to do it starting especially early in the spring, and it's just little pellets, and you just kind of broadcast it out into the into the area. And what it is that the snails and the slugs will come and eat it, and then it causes their demise later on. But that's a great way to do it. It's super easy. It's not hard. Like I said, it's extremely safe. It's OMRI certified and organic. So slug and snail bait made by a bunch of different people, but that is the best way to do it, and I've had great results with that.
And no problems where in the entrance bed we get a lot of good bit of sun down there. I think
Right.
sometimes some customers think that the coleus are only for the shade.
True, and so that's why we do love the Color Blaze series of coleus from Proven Winners, because it can do sun or shade.
And that's an excellent spot down there for it.
It is. I mean, clearly it's very happy because that area gets lots of good morning sun up till lunchtime, and then it gets a break in the afternoon.
Yep.
But this coleus, the Color Blaze, can do sun or shade. So the more sun areas you have tend to have less slug problems. They like it damp and wet.
Right.
Yep. The next question is the Lavia Sia says, what is the wide strappy leaf plant beside the surefire white begonia? So that is a new introduction from Walter's Gardens. It is an iris. It is called Mings Treasure, and it is a very unique iris. It is the largest one, I think, out there, and so Walters, of course, we have a great relationship with them, and so they sent us those trial plants. When we visited Michigan back in, was that July? We were up there earlier.
Yeah.
And we stopped by Walters, and I have a picture of me standing beside Ming's Treasure, like a full-grown one, and it is massive.
Yeah.
It is enormous. So it does, though, these giant deep purple flowers on it. And so anyway, we're just kind of trialing that out. If mine gets to be the size of theirs at Walters, it probably won't be able to stay in that spot. But yes, so it's a trial iris Mings Treasure.
Cool.
And then Amy Proctor says, hi Jenny, I have a question about my hardy hibiscus. How soon can I cut it back? I live in Southeast Ohio, zone 6A, and mine have quit blooming and started to look a little shabby. Should I wait a while before cutting it back? Thank you.
I would, yeah.
You would wait or cut it?
Well, I think the tip is to wait.
Well, it is.
Have you done both?
I have. So if you look on like Proven Winter's website or even Walter's Gardens website, because I love telling people to go visit Walter's, even though it's for you, it would be for information, because you can look up those plants, and it has great growing information and maintenance tips on it. Before I knew better, I would wait until a freeze and all my foliage would die. So then I just had these big tall brown sticks and I was like, I don't want to look at that all winter. It's kind of like daylilies, right? So then I would cut it back. And I did this for years and did not realize that I wasn't supposed to do that, because I never had any problems with it. But the thinking is it's kind of like lantanas, because their stalks can be hollow, and if you have a really wet or a ton of snow and it's sitting on that, then it could cause the crown to rot.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, I've done both. I will say in North Carolina, like I'm looking at some over there that just look pitiful, I'm ready to cut them to the ground. And you've had some in production where you've cut them earlier on in the season and they've flushed out new growth. Now, we obviously don't have enough time for that now.
Yeah, that's totally different.
It is a different situation. So I would just advise you to do what you want. I've done both, and I've never had any issue cutting mine back earlier. But of course, you may be different if you get more snow. You're just a zone colder than we are. But like I said, I've successfully cut them back for years and not had an issue. Chris Scarcera says, question, what type of grass is around your trial gardens? They are beautiful, by the way. We have St. Augustine, and I want to make a garden like that and try and decide if I need a border around it or if I can just do what you did. So I think if you mean like the grass in like the landscape, then that is a type of fescue, right? So because we in North Carolina, we can either do
around the trial beds.
Yeah. I think that's what you're asking, because you're talking about you have St. Augustine. So because we are kind of in that borderline with North Carolina, we can either do cool weather grass like it's fescue, or we can do hot weather grass, Bermuda, St. Augustine, Georgia, so forth. So we can do either one here. We personally choose to do fescue because we like having green in the wintertime.
We do. Yeah.
And it just struggles a little bit in the intense heat of the summer.
So you just had the flip-flop. It struggles in the summer, kind of gets a little brown, but we have no really brown per se in the winter.
No, we don't.
It has a good green tint to it.
It does.
Yeah.
Yep. So there you go. Then Susan Lee says, what is the lavender blue flower / plant to the right of the cherry cordial begonias at about the 9-minute mark? Thanks. Job well done, y'all. It is gorgeous. So that is the Blew My Mind XL Evolvulus. One of our all-time favorite plants. We were just talking about it this morning, I think.
Yep.
And so originally it was always Blew My Mind, and then this year they came out with the Blew My Mind XL, like extra large. Honestly, can we tell a difference between the two?
I don't know. Sometimes I look at them and I think the flower is just a little bit bigger, and that's what you're supposed to have, is a larger flower on there. It seems to grow really well and vigorous, just as the other one. So I don't know. I mean, they're about the same.
It's not a huge difference. So whether you get Blew My Mind or Blew My Mind XL, they are wonderful, wonderful plants that are extremely low maintenance. They're still blooming right now in October. They love the heat. They're very drought tolerant. They are a part of the morning glory family, so they open and close with the sun.
Yeah.
But when I say morning glories, I don't mean morning glories
It's
like
a plant,
here in the South.
That
For us, that's a noxious weed.
Yeah. Like in the spring if customers don't know about it, they don't really purchase it, but they should be purchasing it, especially here, because it's one of those that is rock solid through the summer, through the heat, through the humidity. it just sits there and grows and looks pretty.
It's a lot like lantana in that aspect of in the spring, it's not the showiest plant in the garden center because it's not hot enough yet. But when you get to late summer and fall, just like our lantana is still rocking out, so is the evolvulus.
Yeah, they're all still there right now.
Yeah, they are. And they're not getting ripped out anytime soon.
No.
Nope. All right, so put that on your shopping list for next spring. Next video was where I planted the pufferfish and beyond pink caryopteris in the backyard beds.
Okay.
Yep, those are two new exciting shrubs for us. Cynthia R. says, love the caryopteris. I live in Florida and our summers are very wet. Do you think it will do well in a pot? I'm thinking in a pot I can move it under my porch and let it dry out if need be.
Which plant?
The caryopteris, because
Oh.
it likes to dry. So my thing is, I would definitely try it in a pot.
Yeah, I think it still would be probably okay in the pot outside because the pot's going to drain.
Right. I would choose your biggest pot that you have available because it does have a very vigorous root system because it is drought tolerant, so it sends out a good extensive root system. So the biggest pot that your space will allow, and as long as you use a well-draining potting soil, then you'll be good. And it shouldn't, like Jerry said, because it's in a pot, it's not going to sit just saturated.
Yeah, if you're worried about the soil being too damp and wet because you get so much rain that it's going to disturb the root system, then put it in the pot.
Yeah, I'm all about experimenting. Go for it. Then Bluebird Homestead says, what a fun new hydrangea. What are the key differences from the Limelight hydrangea? I currently have Limelights. Kara. So the first thing would be size.
The difference between the Limelight and Pufferfish. Oh, yeah.
Limelights will get a lot bigger than...
Taller, wider, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, for us, Limelights not just for us, in general, like a mature Limelight can be, 8 to 10 feet tall, 8 feet wide. I mean, they are massive. Where a pufferfish is much more petite and much more manageable. I think it's in that 3 to 5 foot range. So it's going to be, even at maturity, it's going to be about half the size of a Limelight at maturity. And then, of course, just the actual bloom itself. The pufferfish, I think, is much more compact and tight, like the bloom petal, like the petals themselves. Like if you look at a Limelight bloom versus a pufferfish bloom, it seems much more fuller.
Yeah, and it is in a way, but then it's also a little more, it allows water to go through it better than
it does.
Than Limelight. Limelight's too tight almost in a way because it holds so much water and then it will bend over. Where this one's going to let the water come through.
That's true.
And it's the thing is a large flower with the little puff.
Yeah, the little tuft that comes out at the end. So,
but they're way different. They're not even comparable to each other at all.
Yeah, I would just say the main difference is the size, though.
Yeah.
So you go with what your space allows. You certainly can have both in your garden. There's always room for hydrangeas, more hydrangeas in your garden. And then we have Barbara Heisel. Hi, Jenny. This year I have more pests in my flowers than ever before. Lots of moths, leaf rollers, etc. Should I start with fresh soil in my pots? I don't know if I brought these pests in when I bought them or what. So, Miss Barbara, I am a massive, huge proponent of every season when you're replanting your pots or your containers, we always empty it out and start fresh with brand new soil. There's only a rare few exceptions that's like maybe I plant tulip bulbs and they're in there for 2 months and then it's just tulips and then I'll put summer stuff in. But I always start with fresh soil because for a host of reasons. But your point to the fact, to that fact is to get rid of any eggs that may be in there, any critters that have overwintered. My main thing is that, and then because the root system is so extensive that there's no free available soil for new plants to go in, and they just struggle. So it is, if you enjoy gardening and this brings you great joy, then take that extra step and do the fresh soil every season when you're redoing your containers. Because remember, your soil, whether it's in a container or the landscape is like one of your best allies in gardening. So if you have
so
great
it's like
healthy
the
soil,
foundation of your house. So it's the foundation of your garden.
yep.
So it's the same thing in your pots.
Yes.
So it has to be changed, and there is no exception to the rule.
There you go.
So.
Straight from the grower's mouth. Susan Harvey says, do deer bother the hydrangeas or hibiscus? So there is absolutely no such thing as an absolute deer-proof plant. If you have deer, and they are kind of a nuisance in your garden, they do tend to enjoy a hydrangea, especially when they are blooming. So you just be aware of that. Hibiscus, though, on the other hand, are not deer-proof, but they are highly deer-resistant. And so I was talking with Kata from Walter's Gardens, because we actually had for the first time this year some deer come through and nibble on some plants in the trial beds. And they left all the hibiscus alone. They never touched them. And I was talking with Kata, and she was like, yep. She said, we've never had, of all the people, now I'm sure there's somebody out there that's an exception, but they generally will leave the hibiscus always alone.
Yeah, and these deer, I think, were like a new group, which they have since moved on.
Right.
But they came in and really got just hold of the sweet potato vine plant.
It was weird, but they
they
also did the Nephophia.
That's true. But yeah, but they've
Roses?
gone. They're moved on. So.
Yeah, so they're gone now. So we were prepared to deal with them, but then word got out on the street, and so they left. But yeah, there you go. And the next video on the list was when I planted the sweet little violas that are just over my left-hand shoulder right here. How to prep your beds for successful fall annuals. Had a great time doing that. And our first question comes from Jennifer Green. Question, what drill do you use for your power planter auger? So we use the drill that came from Power Planter. It is a DeWalt. It is an E-clutch
cement mixer.
That's what it's originally designed for, because we do have that thick clay soil. So there is a safety mechanism built into it. So when it hits resistance, it turns off.
It'll still kind of turn, but it will stop.
It will stop. But I just got it straight from Power Planter. I will try to remember to have exactly that link down in the video description and in the comments. But yeah, just go to Power Planter, and if you have any questions about what you need, just contact Power Planter, because they are fantastic. You tell them what your situation is, what you need, and they will take care of you. They are fantastic. Greg and his team just do an amazing job over at Power Planter.
Yep.
Mary Sumner says, those violas are lovely. Got to get some in my garden. Can you give us an update on the hens and chicks? I have some that are doing fantastic, and I want to make sure to care for them properly in the winter. So the hen and chicks, I showed them just here recently in a video that are on the back porch. They are doing great. They're loving this cooler temperatures, doing great, growing. The ones that I put into the bird bath, I turned the bird bath into a planter. They're all well rooted and doing great. I've never overwintered my hen and chicks. This is my first year growing hen and chicks. But if you've been around us for any length of time, you've heard me talk about our friend, Miss Kathy, who is an amazing gardener, a customer, a great friend of ours. And so I always go to Kathy and I'm like, okay, I need some advice. And so she said the temperature is not an issue. Like, it can handle our winters, no problem. But the concern is if we have a very wet winter, that there could have too much water and it could rot. So what I'm gonna do for both of my hen and chicks is move those containers up onto my porch, like right here, not this porch, the back porch, so that they're covered so they don't get tons of water on them. And then I'll just, splash some water on them whenever I think about them so they don't completely dry out. Cold is not an issue for me, but a wet winter is, so we'll keep them where they don't get tons of rain.
Yep, sounds great.
Easiest plant ever. And we're getting ready to place our orders for next year, and we got that catalog, and man, it's like when you were little and you're going through the Sears catalog. Yep, I was having fun. Shirley J. Davis says, how far apart do you plant the pansies? Really, you can plant them as close or as far apart as you want. It's just the look that you're going for. Mine are probably 8 to 10 inches apart because
which I would say is probably normal.
Yeah, that's average. And they are filling in and growing like crazy. And because I did those bright yellow ones, like that was my goal.
Out.
They stand out.
I was out there working on the berm, and I looked up and
whoop, boom. I know, all the way down.
Yellow.
You just see this carpet of yellow, which is exactly what I wanted.
That's the Color Max series of violas, and it's yellow, and it is one of the prettiest, best yellows in the whole series of Color Max, and it's Color Max for a reason because the colors get really bright as the temperatures start to come down, and they enhance, and they have.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just no doubt
about it. The violas
this
year are just spectacular.
Yeah, we've had some pretty ones.
We've had some really pretty ones. Pansies, too.
Yep.
Linda Lee Durham says, because when I was talking about the prepping your bed to use compost or like worm castings, you know, those kind of organic amendments. So Linda asked, what are worm castings? So, in a nutshell, very simplistic, worm castings are worm poop.
Yeah.
So gardeners and there's, you know, companies that actually, it's the byproduct of a worm. So it's all that great organic matter, and it doesn't smell like poop. It's just it's black and very kind of almost like granular.
Yeah. Yes, it's different.
It is different. So you don't use a ton of it, but you just can broadcast it. But it's extremely beneficial with nutrients and minerals and all that good stuff. So it's a great organic amendment for basically any kind of soil. Yep. And then Loretta Tremmel says, good morning, Jenny, from Central Pennsylvania, Zone 6B. I love it when y'all tell me where you are. It's fantastic. Love watching your videos. We have clay underneath just a few inches of decent topsoil. Was wondering how many inches of compost do you work into any given area when creating a new landscape bed? And how deep do you work it into the soil? It's a very excellent question. So I would say for a brand new bed,
yeah, good. Like for instance, the berm, we are going to use a bulk compost material, which has, I think, it's leaf material, other composted pine bark fines. It also has, I think it's mushroom compost that's in there too. So all of that is just really good organic matter that we're going to work in my tiller. I'm going to use the tiller, so I'm probably going to go down 10 to 12 inches on that. Because I'm just doing this one time. I'm going to amend the entire berm at that time. So if you can do that, that's fine. But 4 to 6 inches typically is what we're doing with some beds around. And but you don't want to have a ton of that. And I would say 20%.
Right. You definitely want it to have more native soil in there. And when you're creating a new bed versus an existing bed, of course, when you have a new bed, you're going to be using more, right? That's your investment, is that you're using that. And then we just top dress it with that. So we put that, 4 to 6 inches or whatever it is. And then typically, if it's a flower bed and not a massive berm, right?
Yeah.
Just when we dig in the plants, it will naturally mix in.
So yeah, like if you're doing land and sea and you got on the back of that bag, it tells you the layer that
if you need it 3 inches, 4 inches,
yes,
whatever.
Right. So if you lay out 2 inches across the bed, start planting, that should be plenty to work into the soil, and it wouldn't be overdoing it.
Right. Yeah. And then what I do this time of year is like what I did with this, right? So I'm just adding it in. You're pulling out some plants and you're putting it back in and then top dressing. So obviously when you're in the maintenance mode, it's not as much as that first initial. Sure. But you don't have to go down as deep as some people think.
You don't.
I mean, we're not talking about feet here.
They're working off the 4 to 6 inches for food. The plants are.
Yes. All right, next video was where we took just a really fun, informal tour of the backyard. It was garden tour in the perfect fall weather. This is just right after we finally got some cool temperatures. And y'all came along with me in the backyard and we did a little walkthrough. Ramona Jolly says, will you have the phenomenal lavender this spring? I have been very impressed with the phenomenal in our landscape. It has done phenomenal. Really, really nicely. I don't know on the exact timing of the phenomenal if we're going to have it in this it would be later spring, because it's kind of like echinacea. We can't start it now because it likes to be warmer and drier, so it's better to do that more like going into summer. But we will be, I've been very impressed with them, phenomenal. So yes, we will have that in our inventory here at the nursery. Mary Beth Stratton says, is guara perennial for me in zone 6A, Western Massachusetts? It seems like when I Google it, I get all sorts of different answers. I planted 3 pink ones with dark red stems, and they are giant. I don't have the tags. So I don't know exactly, since we don't know the exact variety. So this is my recommendation for you, Mary Beth, is just leave it alone. Like, leave it in the landscape. Leave it alone. Once you get a first hard freeze, you're going to notice, like, if you still have your stems, they're going to get, burnt because of the freeze. Just cut those off, right? So just cut it back. If you still have some green, obviously leave the green, but anything that's been burnt, cut that off and then just leave it. If you want to add a little extra mulch around it, don't cover it, but just kind of shore it up to act like a little insulation. And then just experiment. Let's just see if it comes back in the spring. For us, it is a perennial, but not sure in zone 6A, especially if we don't know what variety it is.
Yeah.
So do a little experiment on that one. Amber Moon says there were some pollinators that were enjoying their time out in the garden with the salvias. And Amber says, were you talking to me when you were talking about the pollinators? So you may or may not remember that back in early summer, so Amber is a dear friend of ours, and we went and did a tour of her garden because she and her husband Ronnie, who were self-proclaimed, non-gardeners, redid their whole front bed, and so we went to go visit them. Amber, like so many other people, does not like bees of any kind whatsoever. And so she is learning to appreciate them. So no, Amber, I wasn't specifically talking about you, but then again, I kind of was. So
yeah,
that's the thing, is we have all the time that we've been gardening, which has been 17 years, here, you and I each have been stung one time by a honeybee. I've been stung once, and you've been stung once.
Yeah, this year. Yeah.
And both of those times, it was like we literally just ran into each other.
Yeah, I have picked, and when we would cut sunflowers back in the day, there would be bumblebees, honeybees all over those things, not even one time was I ever stung. Those bees, your honeybees, bumblebees, are not aggressive whatsoever. You have to really mess with them. They have to have an accident in a way and get kind of combobulated and panic a moment, and then they sting you. Because with the salvia, that's where I was. I remember making the comment about that. I was at the salvia, and I can go in there and trim it, and I mean, like, be up close, and they're all over, around my head. And as long as you're not aggressive or mean, they leave you alone. I do. Ruth Fall says, Jenny, I can't believe how beautiful your backyard is, considering it's only 1 year old, and the new beds were just planted this year. Your salvia is beautiful. Will the salvia spread to more plants next year? So that salvia that I was just talking about, the blue suede shoes. It's a great plant. It will not divide into more plants. My mound will just get bigger. So they don't send out runners, and they're not invasive like there are some salvias, like black and blue. It can take over a flower bed. That does not happen with the Rockin' series. So it's just that each year your mound gets bigger, but you don't have babies popping up everywhere. Yep. And then Garden Rooms says, Jenny, will the lantana not be a perennial for your area? We sell our lantana, those lantana, as annuals here at the nursery because it can be iffy. And so we just sell them as annuals for the, everywhere I treat them as annuals in the landscape as well. I only have one lantana that is a true perennial for here. That is Miss Huff, and Miss Huff is a massive, beautiful beast, and she reliably has come back for 4 or 5 years now, and she is huge. She's huge. People have been liking how I use the word huge a lot. I need to find a thesaurus and look up some bigger words. Ginormous. There you go.
So yeah, we treat it as an annual. You go a little further south, and it could be a perennial. Wilma Brands says, you have a beautiful garden, so fun to see. Can you tell me how you attached your trellis to the siding? I have the same trellis, but I'm not sure how to secure them to the siding. Thanks. So we have those 3 trellises from Gardener's Supply. They're fantastic, super easy to put together, but when you get them, it's Gardener's Supply. The instructions say that they do not include the hardware depending on what you're attaching it to.
Yep.
So you have to provide your own screws, because if you're going into cement, or if you're going into wood, or if you're going, we have Hardy Plank, which is like a cement product, is our siding. So I have a wonderful husband who knows all about that, and so I put the trellises together, and then when it was time to install them, I said, you go grab the right screws and I'll help you. So that was that.
So they had the brackets though.
They had the brackets.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the brackets are on there.
Brackets, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so the brackets are included. You just have to find your screws.
You just have to have the right screw for the right
material. Right. So if you have, concrete, or not, well, I guess you could do concrete, but if you don't know, I would just go to your local hardware store and ask them the best.
What you're doing.
Just tell them what you're doing. They can help you. And then next video was the new project update here, what we're up to, and this is where we were really talking about the new production building at the greenhouses.
Oh, okay.
That new one. So Marianne S., dear friend Marianne S.
Marianne S.
We know who Marianne S. is. She's a great customer of ours, and she's a scream. She says, what are you going to do with all that time when you're closed? And then lots of laughing emojis.
Oh, yeah, she knows we're working.
So we do the nursery, the retail part of the nursery will close right before Thanksgiving. And
it sort of just kind of closes on its own. Everybody gets ready for the holidays and Christmas, Thanksgiving. We're open right up to Thanksgiving. But, then it just, I was back looking at, it was a pretty good Saturday, the second Saturday in December last year. But
Jenny puts her foot down. It's like we take the week off for Thanksgiving, and then we're not going to reopen for 2 weeks. I am ready to go into family mode, holiday mode.
A week before Christmas.
No, I am just ready to. So that's.
We're busy, and we have that particular project to finish up. I'm sure we'll still be working on the building. Well,
that's like yesterday.
Yeah.
So we filmed a video yesterday, and we actually filmed 2 videos yesterday. And when we were sitting here talking, we counted up all the different things that happened in one day. We could have made a total, was it 5 more or a total of 5?
A total of 4 or 5 videos.
We could have made a total of 5 videos just on things that were happening here at the nursery in our house yesterday.
Yes.
And we were only able to film 2 because
of time and
we don't have camera crews following us around everywhere.
Yes.
Yeah. So Marianne, thanks for your little tongue-in-cheek humor there for a little bit.
We have to get ready for you for the spring, so that way we have beautiful plants.
Marianne, I have to grow all your plants.
We're trying to make orders right now. We're behind with that, so we're going to knock that out today, hopefully.
Yes.
Maybe some other things to foresee in that.
Yes. But someone was awake at 4 o'clock this morning and got a good start on it.
I guess I was just like, whew, I am awake. So I got a really great start on it.
Yeah. Jenny was not awake at 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
Sherry Whitaker says, love the behind the scenes. How many acres do you and Jerry have? Go big or go home. Can't wait till you get the automatic pot filling machine.
Me too.
Jenny, what's for supper? LOL. So we have 8.5 acres, but we live, our land connects to my parents' property. And they have been very kind and gracious. My daddy was a farmer. He no longer farms, so they have 24 acres, and they have just said, you can use whatever land that you need to for your, for the nursery and production. So even though we have 8.5, we do have access to more land that adjoins to our property. So that is a massive blessing. Mm-hmm. Jerry, update on the potty machine. When will it come?
I cannot tell you, because every time they tell me, it is really not true. So supposedly now we're waiting on a chip, and the chip was supposed to arrive this month. It's supposed to, if they get the chip, they can get it out by the end of the month. If they get it towards the end of the month, it said 3 to 4 days. But that's the first time I have heard of there was a chip problem. I thought it was a motor problem. So there are all these, as you know, everyone knows, for whatever reason, we cannot get back to production of products,
Right.
certain products. And it has caused certain delays, massive delays with certain pieces, especially equipment, that kind of thing. So it's been, a little frustrating, but, it's not the end of the world. So
No, it's not, but it is frustrating.
yeah.
So, such is life. And what was for supper? I honestly don't remember what we had for supper that day.
No.
I don't remember.
I don't know.
That was too long ago. I don't remember what we had 2 days ago. Julia Fior says, hello, Jenny and Jerry. What an impressive setup. I love projects. What kind of landscape fabric is that? Looks super strong. Have a blessed night. So on the production, like the shrub lot?
Yeah, it's made by Sunbelt. I think it is. We get it from a wholesaler that comes in. It has the yellow lines on it. So if you see a black fabric like that, it has the yellow lines on it. It's going to be a little bit thicker. I don't know how many ounces that was. 4 ounce. So it's thicker than some of the stuff that's out there.
But it's for professional production use.
It
right?
is. It's made for that. That's why it has lines on it, so that it kind of gives you a place to put your pots.
Keep it straight.
We're using that instead of, we don't want to put a lot of gravel out in that field.
Right.
So anyway.
But if you watched our video when I planted the Edgeworthia, we do not recommend.
Yeah, don't be using it for that.
Don't use it in your flower beds. Do not use it. The only time that we use landscape fabric on a project is if we're using it where we're putting like decorative gravel down, because we don't want the gravel to sink down into the
dirt.
soil.
Yeah.
So that's the only time.
Soil. Ground.
Earth. And then Mary, we have another one from Mary Sumner. We did one earlier. She said, what is so therapeutic about watching a bobcat move dirt? I think it's probably the same amount of therapy that Jerry has being in the bobcat moving dirt.
Yeah, it's nice.
And no matter what video we do, if we show machinery working, we get some of our best comments. And
we should do an entire video with just GoPros in the machine and around the machine, and it's just all bobcat.
All machinery.
Yeah.
All machinery. I hear you.
All right. Sounding good?
Yeah, we're not done yet.
We're not done.
No. Somebody's all antsy over here.
Ready to go to the dirt.
He's ready. Well, we're still waiting on those 2 truckloads.
I can hear them coming.
No, you can't. In his mind, he hears it. Nancy Brown says, how many wells do you have, or how do you get enough pressure to run those long lines of irrigation?
2.
But up there in production, we have
1. We have 2 wells total, one in production.
One down here and one up.
It's all about the size of pipe, and when you then come down from that size. So we're carrying with 1.25 inches everywhere, and then you work your way down from 1.25 inches to 1 inch. And then usually you're coming up 1/2 inch if you're coming up to a sprinkler. So that all creates pressure.
Yes, and then knowing too, you have to like the size of the zone. We've had to reduce
the size of the heads. You have to reduce the number of heads depending on your water flow and your pressure.
Right, and only one zone runs at a time, but they'll run back to back.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of zones up there.
Right. Well, no, I mean I know, but I'm just saying there's multiple zones, and the zones run one at a time, but back to back, because it's better for your well, the pump, to continuously run instead of run for a little bit, cut off, builds up
while
back
it's
and forth.
sprinkling on that one zone.
Right.
You want that pump to be running, enough flow to where it's running the whole time, pumping your water, and then when it's done, that zone's done, it cuts off. Sometimes depending on some wells, you need to give a break in between when the next zone comes on, just to kind of give the well time to rejuvenate itself.
Gotcha. Okay, we have one more video. Can you hold on for one more video?
Okay. Yep.
Okay. Next one, the fall container when we did the water trough at the barn.
Fall container water trough.
It's the last one. Somebody's getting antsy.
Portulaca number 1.
Portulaca number 1?
That's what you ripped out.
I did, but we didn't show that.
You did.
It was already empty.
We did.
Randy cleaned it out for me.
Yeah.
Sweet Randy. We need to show y'all. We need to introduce Randy to him.
We do.
Randy's great. All right, Anita. First question, she says, it really looks terrific and I love that it will last through the winter. I need some ideas for a round galvanized container that is in mostly shade. It's hard to find something for height that will last through the winter. I know my coleus will not last. Are there any evergreens that would work? Yes, ma'am. So there's a whole host of things. So you can always do like a boxwood. You can do even like some evergreens because winter sun, summer sun's a little different. So if you found one, like an evergreen that was like a part sun, part shade kind of thing, you could do like the black dragons. Would they work?
Yeah,
the black dragons. Lenten roses or hellebore. Now it's not going to be like tall like that, but then that would give you flowers in late winter. Euchera would be a nice kind of a filler, right? Your coral bells, lots of color there. Autumn ferns are a great option.
Autumn ferns, coral bell, looking good.
Ajuga would be a nice evergreen that kind of spills over.
Yeah.
So lots of options, but if you're looking for specifically like an evergreen that's like a conifer, then I would even say just do that. Look one that can handle part sun, part shade, because you should be fine in the wintertime.
Yeah, that'd be all right.
Rick Gonzalez says, oh, sorry, it's Deb. She was on Rick's account. Deb here. Do nursery garden centers want the plastic pots back, or should we put in our recycle bin? Always enjoy your videos. Thanks. You want to answer that one?
Yeah, I would say the garden center is likely, most of them are not growing, so they're probably not going to want them unless they have a recycling program for those. So if you have a place to recycle them. I'm likely not going to take them because I have certain pots that we're using, and there's some that we keep for ourselves, and we really don't want to deal with an old pot that we have to clean. And
right, because there is a sanitation issue there.
Yeah.
So if so we are very, it's interesting, you never know these things until you get into being a grower. Like, we are very specific on our pot size and very specific on the plants that go into certain size containers.
Right.
So, not being ugly, but we don't need a bunch of all hodgy-podgy pots to grow in.
Yeah, lots of different ones. I've had customers come and they'll bring me 3 proven winter 3 gallons, and then I got these 2 black pots, and like I just separate. I said, well, I'll take the 3 gallons because we will reuse those. But then the other pots they just took back and recycled or whatever they did with them.
So the best thing, just contact your local garden center and ask what they would
prefer.
prefer.
They're growing, maybe they would like them.
Yeah. I know around here, because those plastic containers, if you look on the bottom, they have to have a specific.
They do. It's really
like
here,
hard. There's nowhere.
Nowhere. Period.
We don't have any recycling centers that will take that type of plastic. So that can be very frustrating. So, long story short, contact your local garden center and ask them what they would prefer. Trad 1962 says, not plant related, but I love your sweaters. I notice you have them in different colors. When I find a sweater I like, I get them in different colors. Any chance you can mention where you found these? The length and fit is great. Yes, I am the exact same way. When I find a sweater I like, I honestly will sometimes go back and buy, every color that they have. Because I get a lot of comments about, my clothes and different things where I go. I'm a big online shopper because I just don't have the time or energy or patience to go to stores and shop. So I do a lot of clothes from Talbots, and I love Talbots because I am a short little person and I can get petite clothes. And if you pay attention and you do it right, you can never pay full price for your clothes. So you can shop their sales, and they can do some really great sales. So Talbots, I do some of my sweaters that I've been wearing recently. The fall colors have also come from Land's End, and then even LL Bean. So a lot of those, I do love sweater weather. And in the fall and winter, I wear a ton of sweaters because they're so comfortable. But they also have to be machine washable because ain't nobody got time for hand washing or dry cleaning. So, and I'm gardening, there never fails. They always get dirty, so they end up in the wash. So they have to be easy to care for. But, yep, there you go. Fashion tip from Jenny.
Fashion tip.
ALW says, hey, Jenny, can we please get a microphone hooked up on Jerry for a behind-the-scenes commentary. I think it would be a brilliant idea, and we are in desperate need of having his voice heard.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
We've talked about that here recently because a lot of people have been saying that. We're going to do a play by Jerry.
Play-by-play. Well, I was up yesterday.
He was mic'd up yesterday, so when you're watching the burn video, then he was mic'd up there.
So if you didn't see the burn video, go back and watch it. I'm there.
He's there. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess there could be sometimes different things that we do. It, you know, it might make sense to have it another mic going.
But y'all love him as much as I do, so we will try to get him on. It's not that he doesn't like being on camera or he doesn't like being mic'd up. It's just sometimes a logistical thing.
Yeah, it's just all logistics and just everything else that has to be done while we're doing a video or we're doing a project to do on the video, and it just, I don't know, it's just another thing, and we just haven't taken the time to
And
do it.
he's not always with me when I do videos, so a lot of times with videos I'm just filming myself, so he's just not even around. So
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
All right, Glenda's Garden says, "Hi Jenny, I have a question for you and Jerry. I live in Texas, zone 9A, and I want to know if lemon coral sedum can handle our summer nights. We only cool down to the mid-70s with humidity levels in the 90% range.
Yeah, it'll be fine.
Also, if it can handle those hot, humid nights, would I need to give it some afternoon shade in my harsh climate, or could it handle all-day sun here? It would get about 10 hours of sun where I'm thinking of putting it." So I looked it up, and it is a perennial from zones 7A, I think it's 7A, but 7 to 11.
Yeah.
And so you're in a 9, so you are good to go. I would say go for it, and you're just going to have to play around with it in your
It's a
garden.
hot weather plant. It's part of its issue when it's grown cold. Supposedly it likes to flower, you know, so it's going to like it there with the heat.
Yep, so I definitely say go for it.
Yep.
And then Kayla C says, "Jenny, I watched this video yesterday, and then later in the day I went to my local garden center to pick up a fire chief for a pot that I have. The lady at the garden center told me those were popular today. They started out with several, and they are almost gone. I chuckled to myself and thought, I know why. They watched Jenny's video. Guess it worked on me too, because I went and got one." So I thought that was just too funny, and I love that. So I asked Kayla where she was from, and she's from like Tennessee. So yeah, I mean, those fire chiefs are great plants.
Yeah, we sold a lot of them that day.
We
I
did.
think we're going through them again down there. So
Yeah, we did we got another fresh round of them, and so they are great. That great evergreen that gives you that fall winter color.
seems to be like at this time of year we always end up kind of using them more.
We do, and I think I had mentioned this maybe before, is that we had planted some. We did a flower bed at our church because there was construction and they needed, anyway, so we put some in that flower bed, and it is not on irrigation. It was, it's right at the entrance of the church, so high traffic zone. I mean, you got people all around, and not babied whatsoever. And man, those suckers are loving life. They've been in the ground for just a little over a year.
Yep.
I was doing some maintenance there last week, and they were fantastic.
Excellent.
Yeah, so that is all of the videos and the questions that we are covering today. Any closing remarks? Any last minute thoughts?
Nope.
You just ready to get back on the bobcat and
Get
move some
ready to
dirt?
go back to work. Let's do it.
All right, so we're going to put the man back on the machines where he is happiest, let him move some soil around. Those trucks should be coming here in just a little bit. Of course, we will keep you updated on that berm because that is going to be an ongoing project for sure. But as always, thanks so much for gardening with Creekside. Y'all have a great day, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye, friends.
See you.